So, ladies, thank you for very patiently waiting as I go through my spiel. But as I warned you, I go through my spiel. Thank you both for joining. So, why don't you give our audience a little, tell us a little bit about yourselves, Beverly. Oh, and by the way, I'm very pleased that Beverly is here today because today's her birthday. And now, how nice is that? Is that she, on her birthday when she could be doing lots of other things, that she's here spending time with us. So thank you for that. Happy birthday, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much. Honestly, no way that I'd rather spend it talking about things that are very important, and I'm very honored to be here. So I was like, ooh, birthday present. I can meet other people. I love it. But anyways, hello. I am, I guess, let me see, fast forward through everything. I am a producer, lifestyle, editorial, fashion photographer. I do a lot of producing and a lot of directing and a lot of first AD work. I have my own production company that operates here in Los Angeles and New York as well. A couple clients international, but mostly staying here in the States. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I do currently.
Christine? Thank you. Welcome. Christine, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. First things first, I put on my tiara for Beverly's birthday. I am Christine Dixon. I direct, produce, and star in the international educational one-woman show, Harriet Tubman Herself. My contract was for only 4 shows, and 2 weeks ago in Paris, France, I had my 758th and my 759th performances, and I recently closed off-Broadway, my own off-Broadway debut, starring as Harriet Tubman herself. And like I said, I book it, direct it, and produce it. So during COVID, I spent my entire COVID time quarantined to my car, driving around the country. I drove to 43 states, and I would introduce myself wherever, to temples, universities, charter schools, political events, and I would bring my trusted lantern, which was a gift from the Whitney Houston Academy, and I would just let them know, hey, I do this one-woman show about Harriet Tubman. May I give you just like 2 to 3 minutes? I understand it's COVID right now. However, when things open back up, I know you're going to want me. And 9 out of 10 people said yes. And then when the world opened back up, I had all those bookings set up, like about 93 shows in 1 year. And it was just incredible. And so last week I worked on Spike Lee's brand new film starring Denzel Washington, High and Low. And in the scene, Denzel Washington slaps my shoulder. I'm like, I need workers' comp for that. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And so next I'm off to Japan. So that's what I do. And so this is one of my creations. I'm working on my clothing line now. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. And this is really great. So let me explain to everyone why I wanted particularly these 2 particular human beings to be here today. One of the things that I know of, that I hear a lot from people, you have a lot of ideas, but you just don't even know how to get started. And the one thing that these 2 have in common is that they, at one point in their lives, they were probably in a similar place to where you might be at now, where they had to, they had all these different ideas coming at them, but they had to say, well, how do I even get started? What do I, how do I do that? And this is what, oh, I'm sorry, my camera is not on. I don't turn it on when I have the PowerPoint, but I do want to turn it on now. Sorry about that. But they had to, at some point in their lives, figure out, okay, how do I take that next step forward? And that's why I wanted them to share their stories, because maybe this information, well, you'll see that, you're not dissimilar to a lot of people. but you have to pick a direction, and then you have to just get started. That's the key thing. So, Beverly, I'll start with you since today's your birthday.
Can I just jump in? And I'm going to wish
Sure.
Beverly happy birthday. But Greg, life is a journey here. We're all on our journey. And I think would be remiss. And Beverly, I'll let you go first. But Christine, I believe we had you in our archives on the podcast. So when you do your presentation, I'd be curious to see from when we first were introduced to you to where you are today, how your journey has evolved. I would find that very useful. So go back to you, Greg.
That is exactly what we'll be talking about. And Beverly, why don't you take it away and tell us how you got started?
Yeah. Well, I used to be in front of the camera is where it started. I was a dancer, an actress, and a singer for a very long time. I started dancing when I was about 5, started doing it professionally when I was about 19. And then I kind of traveled, moved to New York, lived in New York for a long time, and then just dance everywhere. It was my life. I eat, sleep, and breathed it all day, every day. And I started working on a lot of sets as a stand-in because I was able to audition, but then also that enabled me to be on the sets and be in the world. And although I was second team, 2 is right behind 1. So I was like, one day if I keep working at this, I'll eventually become first team. Really had great experience as a stand-in. Worked on the movie Annie, Marvelous Miss Maisel, Beautiful Boy. And then I was on a TV show called Life in Pieces, which is the same EPs and across at the same studio at Fox for Modern Family. So it's very similar to Modern Family on CBS. And I stood in for about 2 years, and I was always working with the director and the DP and the producers all day. So I didn't really work with the actors much. I mean, sometimes I did. Running lines with James Brolin was cool. And Barbara Streisand just popping up. I'll try not to have her attack. Anyway, so so I was a stand-in for a really long time, and I was really starting to get really intrigued by the cameras and seeing these things. I'm like, these things are huge. It's so cool. And the more curious I got, the more I started researching directors and filmmakers, and what they had to say was almost sparked something that was inspiring me in a different way. I came face to face with a decision that I had to make, that I was like, I'm not very inspired by being an actor anymore. And I would see myself on the screen in festivals, didn't feel much. But when I saw directed by, I was like, this is it. This is what I should be feeling as an actor and as a dancer. And I had to be real with myself. And I was like, I know people can pivot and people are like, no, this is what I want to do. Sometimes you have to be real with yourself and check in and be like, I don't think this is actually what I want to do. Maybe it's what I thought that I wanted to do. Anyway, I listened to a lot of interviews from a lot of directors that I thought were very inspiring. And James Cameron said, pick up a camera. So I did. And I got myself a camera. I taught myself how to edit, use gimbals. I'm not a writer, but I'm a killer at a run-on sentence. So I tried to make that into, and I would just write stories and then give them to writers and kind of turn them into screenplays. And I was just resourceful for a very long time. And I eventually was like, I want to direct and I want to produce. And within that, I also saw a lot of things working at Fox that I didn't like. And I was like, if I am in charge, this would never happen. And if it did happen, they wouldn't have a job anymore. And as harsh as that sounds, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's just, I just wasn't thrilled. I was like, how can you be in a position of leadership and not act like a leader? So between my not wanting to act anymore and me wanting to actually be in a position of leadership and actually be a leader, which I think you should be inspirational as a leader. I think you should inspire people to, I don't know, get up and have fun to go to work. I don't think that it should be stressful and crazy. I think we should enjoy what we do. And so the two put together, in 2020, when we're all sitting inside, I started researching LLCs and production companies and how taxes were done and how all these things, and I can write these things off and this and that. And my CPA was like, this is considered a hobby if you continue to do this and like write it off within yourself. So I started my production company, and little by little, I got little projects, bigger projects, bigger projects. And I started with, teeny tiny little projects that were myself that maybe I was doing for my friends, to now full-fledged be, doing shows with Paramount, doing shows with A&E, Lifetime, Viacom, and just produced a music video not too long ago that hit around 2 million views with Lindsey Sterling, who's a talent and a force. So yeah, I started doing what I was doing because I think I needed a redirection. I was getting inspired elsewhere, so I listened to that. But I also knew that if I was in a position of leadership, that I could really change the energy and how sets are run, because I was just not thrilled with what I saw. So, and I think if you have an idea, it can happen. Anything that we think in our minds, we can actually make it come true. So I was like, I'm going to have a production company, and I'm going to work with people all over the world, and I'm going to make sure they're respected on my sets. And so I kept going, and that's what I do. So yeah, I didn't stop and created that. And here we are. I think that answered the question. Did it answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
So Christine, now, and I hope you don't mind if I preface your story, because you've been on our podcast before as well. And so I know a lot about how you started. You were actually an opera singer, and you did not consider yourself an actor. I remember this question, you told this story before. So what was going through your mind when you made the decision that you wanted to try this acting thing? What thoughts, what doubts, how did you make that leap?
Okay. Thank you for your question, Greg. I did my first musical when I was 5 years old. My mother studied at the Conservatory of Music in Switzerland, so that's where the opera comes from. And so at 5 years old, when they were like, "Oh, we want you to be a singing stegosaurus," I was like, "Fine, darling, I'm not a thespian, but I'll be a stegosaurus." And so from there, I kind of just, I did the show. 5 years old, like, I wasn't expecting an Oscar or anything. I mean, I was really good though. But so then after that, I got into, local theater here and there, just writing it, but not really trying to act because that wasn't my thing. And they were like, "Oh, Chris, well, you wrote this, you should do this." I'm like, "No, let a commoner do it. I'm the writer, I'm not the actor, darling." And so then, kept doing that. And then fast forward a few years, Hollywood book and theater critic Mona Murphy Martell, she sees me acting as a reindeer in her interactive children's musical. And so she told me this 5 years ago. She said, "I knew when you were my reindeer that I found my Harriet Tubman." Now, Mona, she was, born in Ireland, raised in England. And when she came to America, the first African American she read about in 1959 was Harriet Tubman. And so she kept that in her mind, locked away. One day I'm going to write this woman's story. So her first job in America was opposite Billy D. Williams on Broadway. So then fast forward approximately 56 years later, almost 60 years later, our paths crossed. And so, and then she says, "I would like you to be a part of my Harriet Tubman show." I said, "Okay, when the cast is assembled, let me know so we can have our first staged reading." And she said, "Hey, darling, it's a one-woman show. You are the cast." And I was like, "Wait, it's a one-woman show. I'm the cast. Honey, I don't know how to act. I can act up and I can act a fool, but that's all you're going to get from me." And she was like, "Hey, if you could only see what I see when I look at you, darling." I was like, "Well, honey, I don't know what you see, but I'm grateful you think of me so highly. But, you were on Broadway with Billy D. Williams. You were the Hollywood you were the editor-in-chief of the Hollywood Reporter for 15 years, so you can get anyone else besides me to portray Harriet Tubman. And she said, no, I only want you. And she said, if you don't do it, I'm going to put this script in the drawer, in the file cabinet, but no pressure. I was like, oh, geez, woman, no pressure. So I said, okay, I'll do it if it's only one show. She said, the contract is for 4 shows. I'm like, 4 shows. Okay. If it's 15 minutes, I will do it. She said it's 50 minutes. And after each and every show, you must have a question and answer session. I said, wait, so I'm doing a 1-woman show for 50 minutes. And then I have to stand on stage and then talk to the audience. What if they throw things at me? She said, you better duck quick, whatever they throw at you. And I was like, this is absurd, woman. I don't want to do this. And she said, I really believe in you. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And so we did first show, great show, 65 people. I was like, oh my gosh, three more shows. And I said, can we have a bonfire? I want to burn the script at the 4th show. She said, yes, I will bring the wood and I will bring, the fire. So I said, okay. And then at the 4th show, I was so relieved. I said, oh my gosh, this is over and done with. And then the College of Staten Island said, oh, Chris, can you please come to the College of Staten Island and perform for our leadership program? I said, why, of course not. And then Morna said, oh, she'll be there. I'll send you her contract. I said, woman, you're a traitor. You said 4 shows only. So I said, okay, 5 shows, that's it. Did the College of Staten Island. That was my first standing ovation. I thought these people were mad. And I was like, oh, this is what a standing ovation feels like? I was like, okay. So then after that show, in the audience, there was a couple from Notre Dame, and they said, oh, Chris, that was wonderful. Can you please come to Notre Dame? But they don't really have a budget for Black history. However, my husband and I will pay you ourselves. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I only committed to 5 shows. Here goes Morna, and she'll be there, darling. So I did Notre Dame. That was a pretty cool show. And then after Notre Dame, I said, oh, finally, I'm done. In the audience at Notre Dame, there was a man from the Children's Museum of Manhattan. He said, this show would be great for the children at the Children's Museum of Manhattan. I said, oh, thank you, sir. Harriet loves the children, but Chris doesn't really. So we're going to pass on that. And so Morna was like, no, she'll do it. So the Children's Museum of Manhattan, and then I was asked to be the only entertainment in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. I said, wait, Jamaica, like not Jamaica Queens, like Jamaica the country? And I was like, you know what? If you pay, I stay. So then I said, okay, that was my 7th or 8th show. And then I said, wait a minute. I wonder if I could do this for a living because, I see people doing like other things that they made a living out of. So why can't I do this for a living? I don't know exactly what to do, but let me keep doing what I'm doing. So after each and every show, I would receive 5 to 15 bookings after each and every show. And no one's thrown anything at me so far. So I said, well, obviously, I don't think I suck, at least not yet. So then we did, the first 50 shows, and then Morna stopped showing up. She left me. So I'm there by myself. And so I'm like, okay, well, Chris, just keep doing what you've been doing. Like, success is a formula. Success leaves clues. So, if it's not broken, so I'm like, okay, just keep doing what you've been doing. And then, but I noticed with the audience, as they change, certain things about me would change. I would kind of meet them where they are. I started, not me, but Harriet started to be a little funnier, a little bit wittier. I started walking more into the audience and sitting down on people's laps. Then I started tickling people and they would giggle. I'm like, oh my. Then I started performing for only doctors and surgeons. Then I started performing for judges, and it's a very interactive show. So I didn't know there were judges, appellate judges. I'm sorry.
I think the theme with the both of you, if people have noticed, is that you got started. You did it by putting yourselves out there. Like if you had never done the first show, then whoever you met at that first show, that connection would have never happened. And that led to, each show that you did, that was an opportunity for a new connection. But you had to get started. You had to go out there. What I wanted to see, if I can get you guys to talk a little bit more, because I hear this a lot. Was there a moment, I mean, where you, like in your mind, you said, all right, 4 shows and you're out. But when the 5th show came, and as you were talking about, more shows started coming. What was your thought process, if you can think back to that time, of what made you? Did you almost say no? It sounds like that might have been the case. And what made you say yes?
I wanted to say no every day, but I said yes because I was threatened, physically threatened. So I said, okay, well, I don't want physical harm to come to me. No, but it was mostly senior citizens threatening me. Like, seriously, seniors threaten me the most. People over 70, I don't know why they're so violent, but it's okay. That's a whole nother story. Um, but I wanted to say no every day because I still felt like I'm not classically trained. So I don't know what it is that I'm doing that they still want me. Like, I figured, I told Morna, write me a letter for Juilliard and the Yale School of Dramatic Arts, and I will come back and be the best Harriet Tubman entertainer you've ever seen. And she said, no. She said, they will strip you of your natural talent and fill you with whatever they think you should be filled with. She said that it factor that people are born with, she said, Chris, you naturally have it. You don't see it yet, but I see it. I'm from England. The greatest actors come from England. So if I'm telling you that you've got it, darling, you've got it. So I said, okay, I guess I've got it. And so I just kept on going. And in 2019, the mayor of Elizabeth, New Jersey, said she heard about me because of Mayor Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. I performed, he's one of Mary J. Blige's very good friends. So I performed at a lot of his events. So then, my whole show has been word of mouth. There has been no marketing, no promotion. Everything is word of mouth. So the mayor of Elizabeth, New Jersey said, Chris, we want you, but you must have like some type of certification. I said, like, you want me to go back to school? Like, what do you want? She said, no, you need a sole proprietorship or an LLC. I was like, oh, okay, sure. So I just went online. I was like, hey, Google, how do you form an LLC? So I formed my LLC May 7th, 2019. And then the following year, when COVID hit, because I had my LLC, I received an email from the government saying, hi, Chris, because you have your LLC and you can't perform, we're going to give you these grants that they're not loans, they're grants that you don't have to pay back. So I said, oh, shucks, look at that. So I was able to drive to 43 states. I just lived off my grants throughout the entire, COVID. And then I think it was about a year and a half ago, the government reached out to me again and said, hey, because you already have your LLC, we're going to waive the fee. We would like you to become a minority woman business enterprise, officially certified with the United States government, and we're going to waive the fee. I said, oh, shucks, government, thanks. And so now I have those, under my belt as well. But I still don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I just show up and I'm my authentic self. And so far, 759 shows, 7 countries and 35 states. And I'm still going. I'm 2 blocks from the University of Michigan. I live in Brooklyn, but I ended up bumping into the president in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, of all places. And, that's how we started speaking. And then like, I met you, Mish. We'd love to bring a Harriet Tubman show there. So that's how that connection came about.
Absolutely. So, and Beverly, how about yourself? What was when you decided that you wanted to form your company? I'm sure there had to be some doubt that you were going through. What was if you can recall, what was your thought process that finally made you push forward and say, yes, I'm going to do this?
Well, there was doubt only because I didn't know what I was doing, because I'd never made a company before. I never, operated, hired within myself, whatever that may look like. But I never really, I think the main thing also was, if all these other people are doing it, I could figure it out. There's so many people doing this. There's so many, especially living in LA, everybody is doing this. And, you drive around and, you're, I don't know, either Hollywood Hills or Beverly Hills, Bel Air. I remember like driving around and just being like, if all the, not that you need to live up there and that gives you any credibility in any capacity, but I even look at it that way. Anything that I look at, if all these people can do it, drive up PCH and look at houses or fashion, outfits, eating, wellness, business, anything. If everybody else can figure it out, I can figure it out. I also think there was a lot of doubt because I didn't go to film school. I didn't know anything. I learned it. Now, when you talk about people who go to film school, they're like hands-on is the best way to learn anyway. I know film school has a lot of amazing, aspects to it as well. But yeah, I wouldn't ever really say that I didn't think that I wasn't capable of doing it. I think it was so muddy and a little foggy in terms of what I need to do in order to get there. But I tell you, the more information you seek, that Greg, we've talked about before, you're curious enough, you will seek the education. And then once you have the education, you have the tracks to lay down, you have the pavement to lay down the road, and then it's up to you at that point. So then it's on you. You either want to push forward and you either want to make it happen or you don't, and that's okay. And if you want to change direction, entrepreneurship and building your own business is definitely not for everyone. But is it not for everyone though? I think we've all been so intimidated by, being a business owner or whatever that may come. It's so doable. I mean, if I could do it, anybody could do it. But there was a little intimidation. I would say more intimidation as opposed to not thinking that I can get there. But the more information that I seek, the more that my brain became curious and, Google, she'll help you out. And I was just, Googling all the time, any question that came to my mind. YouTube University, there's so many things. That's how I learned to edit. Nobody taught me how to edit. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, so you say you edit. How do you know how to edit? I'm like, I don't know, YouTube. It's not, it's, I don't know, Command K is the space thing. And then it's so, I don't know. Like I said earlier, I don't think that there's anything that we can't reach. But yeah, so I would say it's more intimidation was in the beginning, but I was like, no, I can figure it out. Ask questions, reach out to people. I am the queen of closed mouths don't get fed. I'll ask anyone anything because a lot of people do the same to me. And there's so many amazing people that I've crossed paths with along the way that have been so helpful. And I was like, I cannot wait to get to a place where I can give somebody insight. Like we've also mentioned, rising tide lifts all boats. We can all go. Everyone, we can all go. So.
Absolutely. And that's the, hopefully if there's anyone out there that, you don't know, which way to go. And I think the important thing is just get started. Keep learning your craft, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do. And put yourself out there. Allow people that can be important to your pathway to find you. And you do that by putting yourself out there. And, that's why I tell people everything that I'm doing, because you don't know who I might meet, what kind of connection I might make that would be helpful along the way. I want to pause here for a second and see, are there any questions from people in the audience that you would like to ask our panelists about? And something we could possibly dive into. I'll give it a second here to see if there's any. No, looks like we're good. All right. Then I'm going to go, let's pivot to our next topic that I wanted to talk, which is equally, if you know me and you know what the mission of my company is, representation matters. That's huge. And I don't believe until there's diversity, in the front office, there's not going to be diversity, behind the camera. I should say in front of the camera, or even behind the camera. So I think because the front office is a little different. But I think it starts at the top, and it starts at, with having a commitment to wanting to see this. I'll start with you, Beverly. What, for you, when I reached out to you, the first time I reached out to you, I told you is because of, I saw you did some music videos. And when I got to see, I will just be a little honest here. When I got to see your, I saw the name first. Then when I got to see your face to go with the name, I mean, when I saw your name, I thought, okay, but when I saw you, I have to say, and I hope you're not offended by this, but I didn't necessarily think, wow, because your video was like very diverse. That's what stood out to me. And normally you don't necessarily always see people committed to having that, and not just in terms of racially, but just even the types of people that you had in the video. So that's what stood out to me. I was like, who is this person? And I was curious, and I wanted to see that. And then you talked about your experiences, at other companies, and not being happy with what you saw necessarily going on set. So I'll ask the question to you: why do you think representation matters? What difference do you think it makes in the process of making content?
The short answer is everything. I think it has to, it's everything for so many different reasons, and then kind of sectors of that. I think I come from a world, and I grew up in a place where it wasn't everyone did everything, and I'm honestly so grateful for that every single day. I'm from a family who also thinks the same way. And it's instilled in me in the sense that I want who's right for the job. So whoever that is and whoever that may be, I can look at, 2 different resumes without even knowing anything about the people, and being like, this is more, it was never really, and I'm going to circle this. I think for me, it was never really an option to have it any other way, and not necessarily that I was actually trying to implement diversity in the sense that I was trying to make a statement with the work that I was doing. I hired based off of who I thought was great for the parts, and what, like, just in general, that's kind of where I think the root of it. And back then, my reel that you're talking about, I just thought it also looked so cool. I know there was a scene where we had like 30 dancers that like ripped down this curtain, and I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to make like a 10-foot curtain, but we did. Anyway, so rip down this curtain, and behind this curtain are all different types of people, 30 different people that are just so different, and it looks so beautiful. It looks so cool. I just don't, so I just casted and also hire based off of who I think is right for the role. Within that, my production company, the slogan for my production company is real, raw, and relatable stories. And I think in order to keep it relatable, you have to be real and raw. And I think that there are so many important stories to tell. And I think everybody has an important story to tell. I don't think whether that story is about you bought your first lamp or you did whatever the story is, I don't know, but everybody has their own realities. Everybody has their own experiences in life. Everybody has their own stories. And I think that is so awesome as individuals, that we all have our own individual selves to bring into the production office, the production meetings, on set, whatever that may be. And it definitely starts with the people who are in charge of hiring and keeping that as diverse as possible, because in order to really touch on the real, the wrong, relatable, I think you have to bring in a lot of different minds from a lot of different places that can contribute different aspects, because if not, we're just telling the same story, I think, from the same perspective. And I think that there is also maybe a million different ways. There could be one specific situation and everybody could have a different perspective on that. So I think within that, every single time I was in a room with friends or creating or different people, it was just so organic to allow everybody to add their own flavor, whatever it is. And so I just think I think it's extremely important for art just in general and storytelling, because everybody has a piece of something that they can offer, whether that's a photograph or that's a music video or that's a script, whether it be 10 pages or 100 pages. I think that we have to keep different minds and walks of life and experiences added into the pot constantly so that we can all continue to mesh together. I also think that that makes you a better creative, to hear other people's experiences and other stories. And then my biggest thing is relatable. We all like to watch things and we all like to be like, oh, I experienced that. Being relatable to being able to relate to another person, whatever that may be, it makes you feel already connected to that person. And I think that if we're watching the same stories told the same way, and we have the same people behind the camera that are hiring and doing all the things, it's just bleh and boring to me personally. And the more that I got to travel the world and the more that I got to learn about other people, where they're from and cultures and the way people grow up, and it's fascinating. It's so fascinating. So I've always kind of been that way, which is great and has led me to have so many friends from all over. But it's that relatability is what I really target. I want everyone to be able to relate to a story in some capacity and not feel singled out, whatever the story may be. So yeah, that's kind of my. It's better in general. We shouldn't not hire someone or think that they discriminate against somebody for some reason that may not be because they know your uncle or not. You know what I mean? I wanted to stray away from just hiring this person because they're your friend, or just hiring this person because they know so and so. No, hire who's right for the job and who can contribute and bring something and keep it a well-rounded environment, even when you're on set. There's a lot of personalities to work with. And I think that makes for such a positive, high vibrational, day on set, when you have a bunch of different people from a bunch of different places. So
absolutely.
That's kind of my brain.
Yeah. So how about you, Christine? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with everything that Beverly said. And with me, three of my siblings, their mother is Italian. Then my sister-in-law, she's half Swedish and Nigerian. So it's kind of like always been like a little melting pot in my family as well. My dad's Cuban, mom, and so and with Harriet Tubman during my shows, I love knowing a little bit beforehand, usually just a day or, a few hours beforehand, who's in my audience, So when I'm in certain parts of Brooklyn, they're like, oh, you're going to have predominantly a Chinese audience today. I'm like, awesome. So I come out, do my opening number, ni hao ma, shisha. So it's like, oh, she took the time to learn some Cantonese. We like that. When I have my most predominantly, Islamic audience. Oh, shukran, afwan, salam alaikum, walaikum salam, la, no. They're like, oh, she took some time to learn Arabic. And when I had my Greek audience, yasus, tikansi, es haristo, parakalo, and then my, the Italian audience, como sta, piacere mi concerto, mi chiamo Harriet Tubman, dove alla piazza, I understand the pelanote, and when I have, some of the Jews, it's like Toda, Manishma, Shalom Shabbat, so I always try to make sure, the Japanese audience, arigato, konnichiwa. I always try to make sure that everyone feels like, okay, it's Harriet Tubman, because they'll say, she's over 200 years old. What is the relevance of us even learning about her? And I'm like, listen, Harriet Tubman is American. Everyone can relate to Harriet Tubman. I feel that there's a piece of Harriet Tubman in all of us. We all have that tenacity, that ambition. I mean, she became a homeowner before she learned how to read and write. Isn't that the American dream? And so Harriet Tubman is for everyone. And I love the inclusion. And, doing this Harriet Tubman show, some people, pay a little better now. So I eat better now. So I don't know if I put on weight. I think my clothes just shrunk, but whatever. And so because of that, I was cast. Someone from Meg Thee Stallion's team saw my work on social media, and they cast me in Meg Thee Stallion's Nike commercial as a plus size woman. And my sisters are like, "You're in show business. You can't be plus size. Harriet Tubman walks so much. What are you going to tell people? Chris, what are you doing? You're too plump. You're too plump for show business." But there are a lot of plump people in show business now. So but Harv, your question as far as the last time when I saw you all, at the time, yes, I had the Nike commercial with Meg Thee Stallion. And then last year I was cast in 3 AT&T Cricket Wireless commercials and their Instagram ad and their Snapchat ads. And so with the money from that, I took half of it and I visited 33 countries in the last 8 months. And it was just an incredible experience learning about the different cultures and being exposed to, different foods and everything, which you touched upon, Beverly. And then with the other half of my money, my roommate, she's deaf. So that's why I know American Sign Language. And she was a professor at the College of Staten Island. And long story short, she, when I was, being an entertainer, sometimes you're living paycheck to paycheck, especially in the beginning of my Harriet Tubman journey. And I found myself living in a car for 8 months. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do? And so one day she texted me out of the blue, and she never had a sister. So she's like, "Sis, I got us a townhouse. I'm not there, but the keys are under the mat." And then she said, "Now you have a home. You can do your Harriet Tubman show, pursue your art, and not have to worry about a roof over your head." I was like, oh my gosh. She said, "I know I'm the professor and you're the entertainer. So I will cover the main bills. You just pay the $35 a month a gas bill." I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, of course I contributed more, but I was like, what a blessing. Long story short, she's going to meet with her students to give them extra credit. She slips down the stairs, breaks her neck, and she dies. And so with half of the money that I got from the commercial last year, I took some and I created a scholarship in her honor. So at least I feel like, I mean, I can't pay her back for give me a roof over my head for 3 years, but kind of like to leave her legacy as well, let her know that she's not forgotten and she's part of the deaf disabled community, and so. And we were working on me doing my entire show in American Sign Language to go to Gallaudet University in DC and other schools. And she died as, before we were able to finish her, interpreting my show, but that's okay. But yeah, I hope I answered your question. I'm sorry. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Well,
No, that was great, Christine.
Oh, thank you.
And Greg, sorry to jump in here, but I think it's an important point. I think it's good that we hear how everybody started, but I think Christine and Beverly, you touched on it as well. Where you started, where you are, and what your legacy is to other people to learn. I mean, Christine, you said it, I left it with the university, so she'll always be remembered. Beverly, you were kind of saying to people, well, listen, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that'll be sort of your part of your legacy to those who figure out, well, here I am today. I'm kind of down. I'm trying to figure out where to go next. What do I do? And Greg, I certainly know you well enough to know how important your legacy is to you with Quentasia Studio. And, many of the people on this panel here, I think, what separates them from many of the other people in the industry is it's all about inclusion, diversity. But what we haven't really touched on, Greg, is what are you going to leave behind, or people who view the podcast or view the films or view the Harriet Tubman performances or see Beverly's work behind the camera or a story, what is it they're going to take away? And that will become each of the panel members' legacy to the people observing, learning, and working with this panel. I think, I mean, if I'm not misstating, Greg, but go ahead. You always paraphrase much better than I do.
Well, I'll add on to that and say the beauty of this and you know of doing stuff like this is that you know the internet is forever, and you know one day someone who is contemplating you know the future for themselves will find this episode. They'll hear your stories, and they'll hear my story, and hopefully what people will take away from that is that you know you just have to get started. You have to make up that mindset, and you have to keep in mind that I think when you close yourself off, there's a beautiful mosaic of people in the world, and if you close yourself off to any one portion of that mosaic, you know you're hurting yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. There are some lessons, some perspectives that you're not learning because you're not engaging with you know that part of the mosaic. And it's always better. It has always been my experience that, and sometimes you know it's unpredictable. Um, you know, give people a chance to be them. Don't come with your assumptions about who they are because of the way they dress or you know any outward appearance. You know, give people a chance, know them. Some of those relationships that you make can turn out to be the most you know important, sustaining, fulfilling relationships that you make in your lifetime. And then the other, you know, to circle back to the beginning half of the panel, you know, is just get out there, you know, get out there. Um, Believe you me, I understand the paralysis. I know how extraordinary it sounds to hear a person, you know, say that they want to raise $93 million. But what I also know, because I've been blessed to hang around people, somebody's doing it. You know, it's like I'm not the only person out there doing it. And I was blessed to have a mother who taught me, you know, there were no, if I wanted to work for it, there was no limit to what I could do. It's just that, are you willing to put in the work to do it? That's really the question to ask yourself. If you are, you know, so I think that hopefully that will be our legacy, you know, is inspiring people so that they know, that they see that, hey, this is doable, this is possible for me. I guess I will, if there, oh, Jen, you have up your hand?
I do. I was going to say, I mean, you're talking about legacy and the future, and I can assure you, everyone that's here and our speakers, you're already making a difference, right? There is the future, and I care about that and the legacy, but with each day that you're doing the work that you're doing, you are making a difference already. You've already dropped a pebble in the water and those ripples are going. And you're asking about representation, and I know firsthand how much representation matters. It is life-saving. It is life-changing. It is so impactful. I can't even say enough. You've all touched on it a little bit. If you see it, and if you believe it and see it in your own mind's eye, then you can achieve it. But if you never see it, then you never see it. And where does that hope and that achievement go? And Harriet Tubman's a great example of it. Let's say that, right? She hadn't seen it, but she did it, right? She took a risk where no human had gone and did what she did to save lives. But once she had done it, she knew she could do it, and she went back to do it again. And she had to tell people, I did it. And then the more people saw that she did it, the more that ripple effect mattered. And people realized Harriet can do this. She can lead us. And the people that helped Harriet along the way realized we can do this. We can be part of a change. She's a great example of firsthand. If you see it, if you believe in it in your own, you take that leap. Some of us have to take a blind leap of faith, but there is also hopefully a seed in your life. I mean, my obsession coming from where I come in the film festival world is, 2S LGBTQIA plus representation. But all of this matters to me. Every single bit of this of diversity will impact people in ways we're already doing it. We are impacting people in ways that we don't even touch, that somehow our ripple or our example has affected someone else who's affected someone else who's affected someone else. And with all the leadership everyone here is doing, the people that are taking the time out of their Saturday to come to this panel, to hear this discussion, to participate in this forum, to support Gregory and his drive, to support Beverly and what she's doing and Christine and what she's doing. Like, I'm here for that. And I agree. Right. What did you say, Beverly? Abundance. I already lost that phrase. We all rise together. We can lift all boats. Is that what you said?
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Rising tide lifts all boats. Thank you. You were muted. But I agree with that, right? Go ahead. You're muted. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I actually got that from Greg. So, and Gregory, yeah. Yeah.
And I talk about it all the time. Like, we are stronger together. And there is enough for all of us. Like, you believe in the abundance mindset. I believe in the abundance mindset. Like, it's so true. There is enough. If we all are fighting for crumbs, we're going to be fighting for those crumbs. But if we all believe I'm going to divide this crumb among all of us, it will make more. And it will. Mm-hmm. So everyone here is making an impact, and these speakers are making an impact. And I cannot tell you enough how many lives, whether you know it or not, I know that you're saving. And people's lives in the future you're saving, and people's lives you're making better. So keep believing is all I'm going to say. We've got to keep fighting for this representation and diversity. And we are making a new paradigm shift, right? We are making a change. And the more we work together, the more we're going to make a change in what Hollywood and things look like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Maeve says. Maeve is on the phone. There you go.
Maeve.
Maeve, there you go. Maeve is attending on my phone. So I could not get her on Zoom, but there you go.
Hey, she's here. It's wonderful.
She is here.
Yeah.
That means more than anyone will ever know. She's here to be in this meeting. So, woohoo! And she's going to make a difference.
Glad to have you here, Maeve.
She says thank you.
I am I said thank you back. I am mindful. I will just, I'll tell this, I will somewhat short story, but this is what, to your point, Jen, you don't realize the impact that you have on people. So back when I was doing music, I was a music producer. That was my first foray into the entertainment world, was in music. I wanted to record this song, and it's called "You Don't Love Me No More." It's a blues song, and so now I can't sing. That would have been a treat. Even with auto tunes, I don't think auto tunes can even make me sound good. So I did like the Carlos Santana method. I wrote the song, I produced the song, but then I would go out and hire someone to sing it. So I went and I was searching for someone to sing the song, and I came across this person, Julie. I'm blanking on her last name right now, but she had never sung blues. She was rock and roll, but she saw my little advertisement out there. I don't even remember where I posted it, probably Sonic Bids or wherever. She saw it. She clicked on the link, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. But she was determined to get a hold of me. And she tracked me, my company email down, and she got a hold of me. She says, "I'm not a blues singer, but I really would like to audition for this, to sing this song." Of course, I'm telling you the story because she did eventually sing the song. Now, again, this was a person who had never sung blues before. You know what she sings now? Blues. She has a band, And, her husband, and their band, they're a blues band now. So it just goes to show you, you don't know the impact that you have. Sometimes if we're fortunate, we get to see, and I had the same experience with Anna Henry, who, she would be surprised, but I told her it's her. I consider her one of my mentors in terms of how do you write a script, because it was her lab that I took, and I did a podcast on her the other week, that really started me on this journey. And I said to her, and I'm not the only student who's now going out and doing something similar to that. I said, I hope you've inspired a lot of people. And she, it was great to hear that. So I say to you two, I am 100. I know, Christine, there are people who had not fully known about or became curious about Harriet Tubman after seeing your show.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping that, and you told me something that I had heard and forgotten, but the fact that Harriet Tubman was a spy during the Civil War, and that she actually got honored for the work that she did as a spy for the Union. And that is, I think that's an interesting part of her story that you just don't get to know. But there are people now who know that because of what you do. And Beverly, I told you, you're an inspiration, because I know that there are lots of people out there who are thinking, well, how can I do this? And you got out there, you did it, you have that abundance mindset. You're and I think I'm going to buy that book that you mentioned, the 10 distinctions between. I kind of, because there's one in there that right off the bat kind of spoke to me. But I'm not going to go into it here. But
did you get the book?
So see, not yet, but it's on my wish list. I did look it up. I do reference it in your podcast episode. So, but as I said when I first started these forums, this is not sexy work. This is steady. This is us getting together, and it's you can't just wish for change. You actually have to actively go out there and try to make change. Jen, you're back up.
I am. I have two things. Beverly, let's type the name of the book in the chat, and that way people know what it is, because then we can all be inspired and catch up together. And then Tasha McLemore asked, what is everyone working on now? As for the panelists, I would say we'd start with them. And there you go.
Christine, why don't you tell us what you're working on now? If you're allowed to tell us.
Oh, yeah, sure. So what I'm working on now is, so once again, in honor of my roommate who passed away, Katina, I started this clothing line in her honor. It's named after her. And before she passed, I was always into my kimonos anyway. And so I figured, well, instead of buying them, why not create my own and name my line after her, And so, so that's the main thing. And then also I'm working on a short story about her life and then creating it into a short film. So that's what I'm doing, and which I've never done before, but I'm inspired by the words that you said, Beverly. If you can do it, I can do it too, And so I recently met with Shonda Rhimes. She said she's proud of my work as Harriet Tubman. So she took my business card. I recently met with Eva Longoria, who you mentioned earlier. I recently met with Kerry Washington. She said she's proud of my work as well. She took my business card. 3 days ago, I met with Alex Borstein from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I know you're familiar with, Beverly, and Rachel Brosnan, who was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She took my business card as well. So just a few irons in the fire. But the main thing is kind of, I guess, leaning more towards directing and I guess filmmaking and my clothing line. I mean, Harriet Tubman will always be there, but I guess that's my foundation. However, I kind of want to, be more behind the camera these days and getting published by Chicken Soup for the Soul they published my story about being taken by the cartel in Mexico. So I was like, oh, I didn't know I can actually write. So yeah, I'm going to focus more on writing and turning those real life stories into, short films.
And I will just say another shameless plug. You didn't mishear what she just said. Yes, she was in Mexico, and she was taken by a cartel. And she did tell that story, I believe, on the last podcast that you were on. And I'm hoping to get her back on real soon. So if you want more details on that adventure, I invite you to listen in. Beverly, how about you? What's next for you?
Well, firstly, I do want more details on that story. I was like, can we please not brush past that? That's a lot. So I'm gonna have to listen to that. I have a couple features that I might be starting here. So lots of conversations. I think the industry is a little right now. Hearing some strike talk again. So I'm just I'm like, maybe if I don't pay attention to it, it won't happen. But yeah, so talking about some features, I have my typical client work. I do a lot of business branding, visual marketing imagery for businesses and brands. So that keeps me somewhat busy when I'm not on set. So yeah, a couple conversations about some new films coming up that hoping to push forward, which will be great. And prepping for my first film that I ever actually shot. I was the DP for the film. Is in the Beverly Hills Film Festival in next weekend. Yeah, so I'm excited about that, especially because it's Beverly Hills in the film. Anyway, so yeah, I have that coming up, which I'm really excited about. But that is obviously already done, and then I'm digging into more like what Greg started the meeting with is how do we raise that capital? How do we get that capital? So that's a lot of my workload moving forward is really educating myself on how to do that. So that's a lot of my work moving forward that I'm interested in, and I'm getting my online store set up. So I'm turning a lot of my photography into prints. So I'm excited about that too, just because I love photographing sunsets. So that's kind of my thing as well. So turning that into a store, another area of passive income. That's not the crazy film world, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on and doing moving forward.
Thank you for your question, Tasha. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Don't be bashful, people. We got a few minutes left. Anything you're curious about?
Did you say that story is in one of the podcasts that's already recorded? So we need to go listen to that. Is that what I heard? The one that Beverly wants to hear? Okay.
Yes, I believe it's season 2. If you go to our YouTube channel, the Quentasia YouTube channel, and you go to the Quentasia podcast, there's a playlist, Quentasia podcast season 2. Matter of fact,
we'll plug it in the comments under this one when it ends up posted.
Okay.
Is that fair?
And
so listen to this panel.
I believe it's
and then you'll find that panel.
Yeah.
We'll put it there.
And so with Christine, there's always, that's what I'm going to call your next podcast appearance. It's just, the adventures of Christine Dixon, because it's always an adventure. But I think if there's ever, that's why I invited the both of them here. If there's ever an example of what can happen to you when you put yourself out there, I think it's our panelists today. I think things started happening for them. Just do it. Get out there, do it. There isn't, sometimes we think that we have to have every aspect of this thing planned out, know where we're gonna just be present, be in the moment, be there. and recognize opportunity when it comes and just be ready to take advantage of it. That's my advice to everyone is what you should do.
Sounds like a good
I'll shut up
idea
now.
for a short, Greg. You could have the life and adventures of the Quentasia podcast members.
Oh,
Well, that's not a short, that's a feature.
that's a
That'll be the
4-part
teaser.
series. Yeah.
That'll be the teaser, Greg.
I'm trying to survive the short that I'm doing. I want to get through that first, and then we'll see. Well, but we've definitely got other ideas in the hopper. They're not at a stage that I can talk about yet, but
And to piggyback or to add what you're saying, Greg, for anyone who's listening or for anyone who might listen in the future, a part of because I think a lot of people, I think we sometimes say, you could do it, just do it, just figure it out, right? But then a lot of people are still, no matter what you do, they'll still be like, how, what questions do I ask? You don't know what you don't know, right? So start there. But the thing is that you have to actually also believe that you're capable of achieving it. So if you don't actually believe that you are capable of doing it, that was me. That was where I used to be, was I want to be this and I want to be that and I want to do this and I want to do that. I did not actually believe it. I really didn't. And the more that I started to work on my mindset and the way that I thought about my work and what I'm doing and what am I putting out there, second you start believing it and the second you're moving with intention, that universe will come right back around and it'll show you this is what you asked for. So when you're educating yourself because you're curious, you have your curiosity and then your education, and then you can lay down that road. You have to actually believe that you can actually get to where you want to go first before you start even having those questions, because you can take off running after that. Because the second that I actually started to believe it, it was like a mind. Yes, I know, Jen. I love your energy. You're just, we're on the same page. Totally. Mindset. Absolutely. It's all about the mind, and it's in our mind and these roadblocks that we magically create. Like, stop listening to the noise, the world, keep focused, stay in your, that's another thing. I went completely against the grain in my family. They were like, you want to be a dancer? This chick is crazy, like she's, and so now they didn't believe me for the longest time. And everybody's like, Beverly is just hopping around. Now she wants to be a producer, and I was like, let me show you. That's okay. Don't care what people think. Don't care what they say. If you know what you're doing and you're moving with intention, you'll get there. And I had to also not really care about the school thing, because people would be like, oh, where'd you go to school? I didn't go to school. And sometimes that would get to me. But then I'm like, but I don't really think these days, especially, I think that's fantastic. And I get why it's helpful. But also something that I noticed, and it was the quote that took my being a little intimidated from not going to school away. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And if you're continuing to work hard, doesn't matter how talented the person is next to you, because they're just sitting on their talent. They're not executing. So also don't let the norm, big quotes, the norm of what has been, what would have been, could have been, should have been, stay your path, stay focused, go after the things that you think are important, believe that you can do it, and it'll happen. It'll happen. Absolutely. Yeah.
Jen, all right, Jen. You wanted to add something?
Maeve wants to add something. So Maeve, you're up. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, go. I'm putting you by the speaker. You got to project.
Barbara touched on a good part of what I wanted to say, but I want to add that first you have to find that alignment with the world for the diversity and equality you want to represent. You have to believe it in yourself. But beyond that, you can't give up. I'm talking to you from a hospital bed right now. I spent over
A month.
Jenny would know better than I do how long I was in a coma. The hospital I was in during the coma wanted to pull the plug on me. My husband and my sister in arms, Jen, wouldn't let them. They said she's still
Me
there.
too.
And Gregory. Yeah. And your brother in arms.
I love them both dearly.
And you made it out of the coma. Yeah?
Give up.
Yeah.
Fighting to keep up the good fight is another matter, but it's the most rewarding thing. People keep telling me, well, it's going to be a long time before you do that. Well, as it turns out, I'm breaking all records in healing and getting back to being me. And
Absolutely.
perhaps I'll be even better than I was before the coma and being ill. By the way, when I woke up from the coma, all I could do was look at people and talk. I couldn't move anything. I can't walk. Learning how to walk again is my last mark for going home.
Right. But they said you wouldn't speak in a day, and she spoke. They said it would take a week or two or more. She spoke the next morning. They came in and said, we're teaching her today. The next morning, she said, I love you. And she's a writer and a film writer, and she's writing again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. She's writing in the hospital. It's
So
best.
you want to talk about amazing stories, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, both you and Gregory are talking.
Hospitals, Christian chaplain who loves the first page of stuff I've written for this new film and can't wait till it's out. It's actually going to be a short. But it still goes back to the point of never give up.
There you go. Never give up. All right, Greg's going to say something. So hang on.
I will say two things and then we will close our forum because it is that time. First,
This is Greg getting emotional for those of you who don't know him.
that one snuck up. Sorry.
Maeve, Greg's been talking about you every day that you were in the hospital. He's been saying, I have to succeed because Maeve told me I have to succeed.
Yeah.
And he's missed you so much. So welcome back, Maeve.
And it's my fault I couldn't get her on Zoom. We tried really hard. I should have started earlier today. So my apologies.
Hey, she's on
in the room.
A month ago,
right.
They were telling me
she was dead.
Maeve's probably not going to be here for much longer. That's what I was hearing. So the fact that we're here today is amazing. So,
yeah, biscuits.
I'll say that. And the last thing I want to circle back on a lighter note to something that Beverly was saying. Oh, great! And I'm recording this. Lovely. I just remembered I'm recording this now. Wow, I still have the power of the editor. So I don't know.
This is real. You got this, my friend. This is the real.
No, I want that memorialized. I want
to see your energy back. Yeah.
I want to see the energy drain from Greg and the energy come back. I want this memorialized for all time, Greg, because of Maeve.
But the last note that I'll give you in terms of what you're going to hear, I told you what I'm trying to do. How many times do you think I've heard, well, have you ever run a studio before? It's not. Well, have you ever done a major motion picture? Nope. Okay. Have you ever done a major television show? Nope. So yeah, I mean, I'm having to deal with, but I know that these things were going to happen. But I've met some incredible people. And the one thing that I noticed about all of them, more often than not, when I, whatever the thing that they became famous for or had the most success in doing it, right? I asked, well, did you do this before the thing that you're now famous for? No, it did something completely different. Do you know how many times, people will do something completely different than what they're doing now? Don't worry about you've never done it before. If you know anything about the story of Mario Van Peebles, perfect example, or Rudy Ray Moore, whose horrible, horrible films I used to watch because my father introduced it. I have so much respect for that man right now. I had no idea about that he was like a comedy legend before he started doing that. And he didn't know how to make films, but he wanted to. And he just went out and did it. He didn't listen to anybody. He had the money because he made a lot of money in comedy, and he had the money. And he's really one of the guys that started this thing. People talk about four-walling. That's Rudy Ray Moore. He did that back in the 70s. He couldn't get anybody to distribute his film. He said, screw that. I'm going to go. I'll hire, a theater here, a theater there. I will have my movie shows, charge the tickets, and I'm going to get money back. And he died a multimillionaire. So I'm just saying that, there's a million reasons why not to do something. If you decide that this is what you want to do, then go do it. And okay, you've never done it before. That doesn't mean you won't be successful in doing it now, because you have to learn. Well, I don't know anything about how a studio works. I guarantee you 2 years ago, all the stuff that I talked about today, I didn't know that. I learned it. But once you know it, you know it. Now you go apply it. So, no fear. Go out there. Don't be afraid of failure. Listen to me. I have failed spectacularly. Like I said on the podcast with Beverly, I have a PhD in failure. So, I am used to it. And that's why I don't mind talking about this project. If this project doesn't work that I'm trying to do to build the actual studio, it's going to get done. I can't tell you when it's going to get done. It may not be this building or this land that I wind up with, but whatever I wind up with, that was the thing that was meant for me to wind up with. So I don't worry about whatever deal I lose in the process. All I know is that, oh, no, I thought that was it, but that wasn't it. There's something better out there for me. And that's the way I approach it. And that's the way I encourage all of you to approach it. So thank you all for attending our forum. We're a minute over. Sorry about that.
I'm not going to hang up until you let Beverly say this point, and Christine knows this point as well. If you don't see it in your own mind, I am a successful filmmaker. I am the head of a studio. I am. That is the manifestation. That's the reality of manifestation. And stop that negative voice that's telling you something in your head and start looking in the mirror, telling yourself you are, I am. And it's not crazy. It literally changes the negative stories you're telling yourself in your head and the manifestations, right? Sorry to talk to you. I just wanted to get that out there. It's huge.
Thank you, Jen and Beverly.
You've got
everybody.
The negative voice you're telling yourself in your head, and if you need people in your life to help hype you, that's true, but you have to do the mirror work or yourself. You have to say, I am. I am.
Yes.
I am. And you all are.
And you need to be in communities like this, communities with people who are trying to do something. And, you'll get that support that you need from us. And again, there's no judgment. No failure is not the end of the world. I like the word Beverly used, redirection. You just be redirected.
Rejection is redirection. Absolutely.
That's right. So don't be afraid. Get out there. Life is not a dress rehearsal, folks. We really, take advantage of, we don't know, tomorrow is not promised to us. So let's take advantage of every day. All right. All righty. thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate you joining us, and I hope to see you back. Normally these forums happen on the third Saturday of every month. For the month of May, just when I announce a regular pattern, what do? I go and change it. We're going to, because I'm trying to get someone who I want to be on a panel, and she too has been a podcast guest, and I think she would be awesome. And she's a perfect example of, working with like-minded organizations. So she's only available Wednesday and Thursday. So next forum is going to be May 16th, which is a Thursday. And of course, I will send out reminders if you could join us. It'll be May 16th, 8 p.m. Eastern. She's on the West. Well, I don't know where she's going to be on May 16th, but she normally is on the West Coast, but she could be elsewhere. So hopefully you can join us for May 16th, and then we'll be back in June on the third Saturday. And I'm planning to have another discussion, hopefully on AI in June. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Christine, so much for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you all for showing up. And I will just sign off and say bye-bye for now and see you next time.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.
great birthday, Beverly.
Thank you so much.
Beverly, thank you for this gift. Thank you for the birthday gift of sharing your time with us.